Hello, my dear students, and welcome to this presentation brought to you by English Department. This is Grade 10 Revision. Let's start first of all with the language functions. Let's start with sentence number 1. China has planted many trees, creating the largest artificial forest in the world. The question is, which of the following is the best answer to the situation above? Is it A, I have a better idea? B, I believe recycling is a good idea? C, let me see if I understand you correctly. And D, what do you think about global warming? As you can see, here we have 3 destructors and 1 correct answer. A, I have a better idea. It doesn't have any relationship with the sentence. The same for B also. We are not talking about recycling. We are talking about planting trees. What about D, global warming? In the sentence above, we don't have global warming. We are not talking about global warming. We are talking about planting trees. So here, the correct answer is C. Let me see if I understand you correctly, just to give clarification and to show that you have understood. Number 2, the environmental problems are increasing these years. Which of the following is the best answer to the situation above? Please focus on the sentence. It says, the environmental problems are increasing these years. A, that sounds strange. Is it something strange? B, first we need to discuss the pros. Are there any advantages of environmental problems? C, I believe actions should be taken now. Which actions? Actions related to environmental problems, to stop environmental problems. And D, in other words, you should be on time. Is there any relationship with the time? So the correct answer is C. Very good. I believe actions should be taken now to stop these environmental problems. Moving on to reading right now. As you know, we will have a text between 250 and 300 words. The first thing you should do is to read the questions, then go back to the text in order to find out the correct answer. Let's have a look at the questions, then we will go back to the text again. Number 1, what is the text mainly about? Is it A, to narrate a story about exercises? B, to give examples of stressed people? C, to explain why people feel stressed? Or D, to discuss the pros and cons of exercising? So here we are going to know what is the text about. Number 2, we have a sentence from paragraph 2. The benefits of physical exercise are obvious. What does this underlined word mean? The question is, what is the closest meaning to the underlined word? It can be as the synonym of this word. Is it shy, clear, beautiful, or interesting? Number 3. Read the following sentence from paragraph 4. In conclusion, the best way to reduce stress in our lives is to live a healthy life. We will replace the underlined word or linker, which is in conclusion, with one connective from the above. A, however, B, moreover, C, to sum up, and D, for instance. Now let's go back to the text and try to find out the answers. Do you know how dangerous stress can be? It affects us both physically and mentally. Reducing stress is something that we should all try to do. While many people feel that the best way to get rid of stress is some form of exercise, it does have its pros and cons. The benefits of physical exercise are obvious. First of all, keeping fit helps your body stay strong and healthy because you are less likely to get sick or suffer from stress-related health problems such as heart attacks and cancer. Added to that, exercise is a good way to get rid of sadness and anger. After exercise, the brain produces chemicals which make us feel good. On the other hand, if you are out of shape, exercise can be quite painful. You may pull a muscle or injure yourself. Furthermore, exercising may even cause more stress since it will add to your already tiring day. In conclusion, the best way to reduce stress in our lives is to live a healthy life. I would recommend people to do plenty of exercises, be cheerful, and take all the sleep they need. Now let's answer the questions. Number 1. What is the text mainly about? Could you find out the answer? As you've seen, the text is about the advantages and disadvantages of exercising. So the correct answer is D, to discuss the pros and cons of exercising. Moving on to question number 2. The benefits of physical exercise are obvious, which means they are clear. Very good. And number 3, in conclusion, the best way to reduce stress in our lives is to live a healthy life. If we are to replace the underlined linker in conclusion with which of the linkers below can you replace it? Is it with however, moreover, to sum up, or for instance? I think you know the answer. It is to sum up. Very good. Question 4 and 5 are named CR questions. Let's have a look at question number 4. Mention the writer's attitude towards reducing stress and support your answer with evidence from the text. In this question, you have to mention the writer's opinion or point of view, which means attitude. And you have to support your answer with evidence. You have to go back to the text and support your answer with evidence from the text. Let's have a look at the last paragraph of the text. In conclusion, the best way to reduce stress in our lives is to live a healthy life. I would recommend people to do plenty of exercises, be cheerful, and take all the sleep they need. So, the attitude of the writer is to ask people to practice sports activities to reduce stress. And the evidence, as you can see, you can write, I would recommend people to do plenty of exercises till the end of the sentence. Good. Let's have a look at question number 5. Exercising may cause some problems. Mention 2 advantages about exercising. As you can see, you have a table where you have to mention advantage number 1 and advantage number 2. The advantages in the text are in paragraph number 2. The benefits of physical exercise are obvious. The word benefits means advantages. First of all, keeping fit helps your body stay strong and healthy, which is advantage number 1. And number 2, exercising is a good way to get rid of sadness and anger. This is advantage number 2. I hope you have understood the way to deal with the reading questions. Let's move on now to grammar. The future forms. Will is used to make predictions about the future. We have the words like perhaps and probably. And also, will is used after the following verbs. believe, think, hope, expect, be sure. Let's have a look at this sentence. She will probably be here tomorrow. She will, and I have here the word probably. I can say also, I think he will succeed, because I have the verb think. So after think, I will use will. We use will also to talk about on-spot decisions, which means decisions that are taken right now. We have run out of milk. I will go and buy some. That decision is taken right now. For promises, when you promise someone, I will be on time, don't worry. So we used here, I'll be, which is the short form of will. We use will also for offers and requests. I'll do the washing up after dinner. We used I'll do, which means offers. Will you help me tidy my room? This is a request and we used will. For threats and warnings, I won't speak to you again, which means I will not speak to you again. We also use be going to express the future. I'm going to stay. Are you going to stay? They aren't going to stay. So here we have the use of be going to is to talk about future plans and ambitions. Like, my brother is going to study biology. That means a plan. So he has a plan to study biology. So we use is going to plus infinitive. Verb should be in the infinitive without to. We use be going to also to make predictions based on evidence. Predictions based on what we see. Look out! You are going to trip over that chair. Now let's have a look at the exercises to have a better idea. Put the verbs between brackets in the correct future forms. So, number 1, I think I go early. I think we talked about this sentence. Here we have the verb think. So after think, I have to use will. Very good. So I think I will go early. Number 2, sentence number 2. Look, it's cloudy. It, rain. In this sentence, we have an evidence that there are clouds in the sky. When we talk about evidence, we should talk about the future be going to. So the answer is, it is going to rain. Number 3, I don't have cash money. I pay by credit card. Here we are talking about a decision taken at the moment of speaking. It is on spot the decision. I don't have cash money. I will pay by credit card. Number 4, I work in a bank when I leave school. The speaker in this sentence has some future plans. So, to talk about future plans and ambitions, we have to use be going to. The answer is, I am going to work in a bank when I leave school. Number 5, I promise that I tell the whole truth. The verb promise here tells us that we have to use the future will, as it is used for promises. So, I promise that I will tell the whole truth. Excellent. Moving on to conditional types. During this year, we dealt with 3 types of conditional types: Type 0, Type 1, and Type 2. Let's have a look at Type 0. In the if clause, we use if or when plus verb in the present simple. The main clause gives us another verb in the present simple. The zero conditional is used to talk about general truths or facts. That is very important. Let's have a look at this example. If or when you press the button, the machine starts. I can give you another example. If you heat ice, it melts. So the zero conditional is used, like we said, to talk about general truths or facts. Conditional type 1. We use this type of conditional for something which is likely to happen in the present or in the future. Let's have a look at the structure of conditional type 1. If plus verb in the present simple. It gives us will or a modal verb like may, might, can, should, or the imperative. Let's see the examples below. If I find, the verb find is in the present, like we said. If I find the book, I'll buy it for you. That is the first example. The second example, if you go, we have if here, and the verb go is in the present, like we said. If you go to the gym early, you might, here we used the modal verb might, you might see him there. The third example, if you see her, the verb see is in the present. If you see her, ask her, this is the imperative. Ask her about the meeting. Very good. Moving on to the second type of conditional sentences. And this type is used to talk about unreal or imaginary situations which are unlikely to happen in the present or in the future. That is very important to know about this. The structure is if plus verb in the past simple. It gives us either would or could plus a verb in the base form plus a verb in the infinitive without to. Let's see the example below. If I had money, so have if and the verb had is in the past simple. Okay, so if I had money, I would buy, the verb buy is in the base form. I would buy a farm in the country. The second example, you could lose some weight if you went on a diet. So let's see here, you could plus verb in the base form, and here we have if plus verb in the past simple. Let's do the following exercises to understand better the rule of the conditional types. We will write the correct verb forms of the word in brackets in the following sentences. Number 1. If you add 1 to 4, you get 5. If plus verb in the present, it gives us either another present or will plus verb in the infinitive without to. Please have a look that here we have if you add 1 to 4, you get 5. This is a general truth, so we have to use conditional type 0. So the answer is you get. If plus verb in the present gives us another present. Number 2. If we lost the match, we be sad. If plus lost, the verb lost is in the past simple, which means here we are talking about conditional type 2. We have to use would or could. So we would be sad. Very good. Number 3. If I have time, I finish the project. If I have, if plus verb in the present, is there any indication that this sentence is a general truth? No. So here I have to add will plus verb in the infinitive. So I will finish the project. Conditional type 1. Number 4. If he, the verb listen, to my advice, he would be happier. Would be. In this sentence, we don't have the verb in the if clause, but we have the verb in the main clause, which is would be. So the verb in the if clause should be in which tense? Good, it should be in the past simple. If he listened to my advice, he would be happier. Now let's deal with our third grammatical rule, which is the past perfect tense. The structure of the past tense is had plus past participle. We use had with all the pronouns I, he, she, it, we, you, and they. When do we use the past perfect tense? In fact, the past perfect takes place before another past action, which means I have two actions in the past. One happened before another one. Let's have a look at this example. I noticed that he had left his books behind. As you can see, the first action which happened first is he had left his book behind or his books behind. Then I noticed that. So here we have two actions in the past and one happened before the other one. Let's have a look at the exercises. We will write the correct verb forms of the word in brackets in the following sentences. Number 1. By the time I arrived at the cinema, the film already started. Good. So please pay attention with me. By the time I arrived. Keep in mind that whenever you have by the time or when, you have to use the past simple. So we said before that the past simple indicates or shows the second action. So the first action here should be had already started. So the film had already started when? When I arrived or by the time I arrived. Number 2, the bus already leave by the time he arrived at the bus stop. So at the time he arrived, that is the second action. So at the time he arrived at the bus stop, the bus, what happened? Had already left. Number 3, Hamad went to bed after he, verb watch, his favorite program. The second action is shown here that he went to bed. After what? After here we have to use the past perfect. So after he had watched his favorite program. Number 4, the thief went to prison. Why did he go to prison? Because he made something before that. Because here, steal the money. So the action of stealing the money was the first action. Then the result is that he went to prison. This is the second action. So here we have to use the past perfect. And the rule of the past perfect, like we said, is had plus past participle of the verb. So the answer is the thief went to prison because he had stolen the money. Had plus past participle of the verb. The last one. When I arrived home, my parents finish lunch. So when I arrived, this is the past simple, which means it is the second action, and finishing lunch was the first action. So my parents had finished lunch when I arrived home. Let's finish grammar with the articles. We use a, an, or the before a singular countable noun. For example, the cat or a cat, an elephant, the elephant. When we refer to it in a general sense or when it is mentioned for the first time. We use a, an, or the before a noun which is something unique, is used in a specific sense, or has been mentioned before. For example, I ate the sandwich. You bought it from McDonald's. The sandwich was delicious. Before a noun which represents a species, we can use a, an, the, or the plural form. For example, here we have the animal penguin. We can say a penguin can't fly, the penguin can't fly, or penguins can't fly. The no article, we don't use a, an, or the. We don't use them. Is used before uncountable nouns. For example, apples, tomatoes, oranges, and plural countable nouns, which refer to something in general sense. Water is something we shouldn't waste. Volcanoes exist on Earth, but also on other planets like Mars. We don't use articles before names of countries. We say Qatar, we don't say the Qatar. Let's have a look at the exercises to better understand this rule. Choose A, B, C, or D. Sentence number 1. Khalid has dog. Which of the following best fits in the gap? Is it A, an, the, or no article? The correct answer is A. Khalid has a dog. Number 2. Ali has old bike. Of course, the answer should be an. We can't say a old bike, and we can't say the old bike because we didn't talk about the bike before. Number 3. We listened to the CD we talked about yesterday. So the answer is the CD we talked about yesterday, because the CD has been mentioned before. Number 4. I like to play basketball. The answer is no article. We don't put a or an or the before basketball. Now let's move to writing. As you know, in this term we dealt with the narrative and the argumentative essay. So first, let's start with the narrative and let's check together how to deal or how to start writing a narrative essay. Let's have a look at the video.
A narrative essay is a story about your experience, either imaginary or real. It can also tell a story of somebody's life. A good narrative essay tells specific stories. There are components of story in narrative essay: plot, characters, setting, and descriptions. Narrative essay follows the storytelling linear plot. Exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. They are also called as the beginning, the middle, and the ending. The beginning introduces and describes the people, place, and time of the story. In the middle, you can have several paragraphs, can describe more action, and write about activities and events involving your main characters. The end is to resolve the complication or problem. You can also end story with a twist, leave reader with a question or mystery, or remind readers of the central message. Point of view describes from which character's perspective the story is presented to the audience, and you have to be consistent. You can use I, she, or he. Remember when writing narrative essay, always use past tense. Describe events chronologically. Don't use too much dialogues. Use sensory details when describing something. Use descriptive languages, but don't overuse them. You need to plan your essay. You need to think about the essay topic. Then, think about your characters, setting and events for your story. Next, write an outline of the plot. You can use flow map or the linear plot. Then, write your essay. After you finish writing, first, you need to revise your essay. Then, you need to check the grammar and sentence structure. Lastly, you can proofread your essay.
In the exam, you will be asked to respond to a narrative prompt. Together, let's have a look at this situation and task. Last year, you went on a desert trip, but unfortunately, things were not as good as you expected. Here, we have to underline the keywords. The time was last year. You went on a desert trip. Things were not as good as you expected. You are supposed to write a narrative essay to describe what happened. Let's have a look at this essay. The first paragraph, which is called the beginning or the introduction. I had a terrifying experience last year. Would you like to know what happened? The weather was very nice and I was enjoying the great time outdoors. Like we said before, in the first paragraph, we have to mention the characters, the setting, which means the time and place, and we may also mention the weather. The writer here used a technique which is called rhetorical question. Would you like to know what happened? It is very important to use such a question in your writing. Let's move on to the second paragraph. After a couple of hours, while I was sitting in my tent eating sandwiches, I felt a wind coming from the south. First, I thought it was nothing to worry about. In addition, the sky got darker and darker, and soon the wind was blowing heavily. I didn't want to get trapped in a sandstorm. I put a red flag on the top of my car so rescue teams could see me and went inside it. Here, the writer used linkers like first and in addition, and he mentioned the climax, the most important event in the story. Moving on to the third paragraph. Finally, an hour later, I heard a helicopter overhead. They loaded a line with a basket. I climbed in and they lifted me to safety. I was exhausted but relieved that I wasn't hurt. The writer used the linker, which means the conclusion, like finally, and he showed that he was relieved at the end. He showed his feelings. I was exhausted but relieved that I wasn't hurt. Now let's move to how to write an argumentative essay. The argumentative essay consists of 4 paragraphs. The first paragraph is the introduction. In the introduction, we introduce the topic. We may also use rhetorical questions, some persuasive techniques, like rhetorical question or addressing the reader directly. The second paragraph, it is called the body paragraph. And in this paragraph, we have to use arguments that are 4. And we need to support these arguments with evidence and examples. The third paragraph is also the body paragraph, but it consists of arguments that are against the topic. And you should support your answers with evidence and examples as well. Let's finish with the last paragraph, which is the conclusion. And in the conclusion, we have to restate what we mentioned in the first paragraph, what we mentioned in the introduction. Now let's have a look at this situation. Social media has great effects on our lives nowadays. Some people believe that it has advantages more than disadvantages, so we can't neglect it. But others think that it has a lot of disadvantages. Your task is to write an argumentative essay discussing the pros and cons of social media nowadays. Together, we will see an essay written by one student. The first paragraph, as we said before, is the introduction. Let's have a look at it. Social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and more are giving people a chance to connect with each other across distances. Different people have different opinions on this debatable topic. So, what are the advantages and disadvantages of social media? When writing an argumentative essay, you have to mention the topic you are writing about, okay? And you have to state the advantages and disadvantages here, question, which is called the rhetorical question. The second paragraph. Social media has numerous advantages. Now we will start with the advantages. The most important, being a great device for education. Students can educate themselves on various topics using social media. In addition, it strengthens links with your loved ones. For instance, you can easily communicate with your friends and relatives overseas. Here you can see that we have 2 arguments that are for social media. The first one is that social media is used as a great device for education. So I have to explain that students can educate themselves on various topics. The second argument is that social media strengthens links with your loved ones. It means it makes your communication or contact with others very strong. For example, you can easily communicate with your friends and relatives. Paragraph number 3, that should be about the disadvantages of social media. And here we have a linker that shows the contrast, which is however. However, social media is considered to be one of the most harmful elements of society. Social media is harmful. If the use of social media is not monitored, it can waste your time. That is the first argument against social media. It is considered as a waste of time. Moreover, it is harmful because it invades your privacy like never before. Social media can be harmful or bad because your private information may be hacked. The last paragraph is about the conclusion. In the conclusion, we have to restate what we wrote in the first paragraph, which means we have to say it again but using other words. To sum up, excess use of anything is harmful, and the same thing applies to social media. Social media has both advantages and disadvantages, but it all depends on the user at the end. That is the end of our presentation. I hope you have benefited from it and wish you good work in your exam.